Shut up and sit down.
It's where the big boys play. SICW.
Welcome to Square Green Podcast, episode 75. We've had an eventful past couple of weeks. Well, more so you guys than me, but we need to talk about a couple things. First and foremost, this gentleman right here, a gentleman here at the podcast, we used to call friend. Somebody you guys broke bread with. I guess you can call it breaking bread at the hotel, eating chicken wings outside. But many hours of hanging out, telling stories, drinking outside. Of course, I don't drink alcohol, so it was sissy stuff. But
drinking water, still drinking.
What's that?
Drinking water, still drinking.
True. Just not manly drinking. But this man, we can't call friend anymore.
Yeah. I'll still give him credibility. I'll call him a legend. But friend, I would beg a differ. Me and Bobby's always talked about how Haku had been like a friend / mentor, in the past. And, we're talking about, going to Vegas and having breakfast with him. And he was pretty open about his life story with us, and he shared advice with us. And this happened, more than just one occasion. It's someone that, we see on a, pretty regular basis every year, probably 2 or 3 times a year, if not more. And, he was definitely a mentor, definitely, I would say, a close friend. However, a little betrayal happened a couple weekends ago.
Yeah, so we'll take a little backtrack, back in time a couple weeks, and Herb Simmons, SICW, brought in Mr. Haku and Ron Powers and Danny Boy Hawkins, and the other referee from WWE, I don't remember your name, brought all these guys in for an event. And, of course, we were all excited for Haku to see our friend again. He came out, did his first walkout in a long time, and that is this one here. But again, we've had many, many, many legends come in. Haku is just one.
I don't know if it's on your end, Nate, but you're like going in and out on your voice.
On my side, he's coming through straight through.
Really?
Yeah, I can't hear my. Yeah, I'm not sure. So we did post on our page this walkout before. This one is just a little more updated as far as color correction. And if you guys want to hear the whole thing, we're going to be posting it. This will be posted before the podcast, so you'll be able to hear his speech. It was touching. It was nice. Dr. Drew, for the speaking for all of us, congratulated him on his family to where he almost squirted some tears, which is okay. Mainly men squirt tears. Isn't that right, Bobby?
And that's the Haku that we brought in. Like, he was the legend. He was supposed to help guide things down the straight and narrow.
He was supposed to have your guys' back during the main event. He was supposed to create that balance for you.
Right.
The word is supposed to.
Ron Powers was going to be there that night, but something happened. He couldn't come. And he knew Haku was going to be there, so he figured Haku would have our back, have Danny's back, in case anything happened.
So that was our connection.
Yep. And there's Mr. Ron Powers talking with Haku. He did have a family engagement, so that is why he did leave early. And that's okay, and that's fine. This is where Ron's telling him he's a good friend. They give a good old manly hug. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought everything was going to go according to the way things were presented to us anyway.
The way
Haku, the big breaking news is Haku did come out of retirement for you guys and for, well, I don't want to say the square drink, but you guys are the square drink. And here's a little short of that. There's your mentor backing people up just with the look. I think that's where you got your look, Jim. That
Yeah.
cowboy stare. Now, there are a couple little things when you guys are watching what's in the shorts, you should know what was going on a few things we put in, hence the music. And then comes the part where we can't call him friend anymore.
Maybe.
Come on, Bobby. What do you think about that? Jim was in handcuffs. Where were you helping Danny Boyle when Haku, our friend, turned heel and backstabbed us? Like what Jim said earlier, he stabbed us in the heart through our
I'm right
back.
there. I'm right there in front of the guy with the red hat on the right side. I just got chucked over the rope, and it was a bit of a nasty fall. Didn't quite control myself on the way out, and just kind of hurting a lot. This was also after getting choked for 6-7 minutes in the ring.
You're going to use the excuse Kowalski choked you when he was stepping on your throat?
I'm surprised there wasn't permanent damage. Like my throat hurt for days, but yeah.
Yeah, so just a little backstory, I think, would help. So this was originally a tag match. You know, it's me and Bobby versus Attila and Kowalski, with Danny Boy as a special referee. And, Bobby had the pin. You know, it was pretty much, in the bag. But Attila came in, broke it up, and then threw Bobby off the top rope. Now, in St. Louis wrestling, if you are thrown over the top rope, if you throw someone over the top rope, you're disqualified and the match is done and over. So truly, the match should have been done and over. However,
Instead, we get LA
Travis Cook,
Hustlers.
Travis Cook was there, so Travis called out another tag team that we've been feuding with, the LA Hustlers.
I'd say we gotta give some credit to that though. Like that was shocking to see that Haku can still throw that super kick.
Right. Yeah, so still going through the background though. The LA Hustlers came out, gave Bobby a few more shots. They handcuffed me to the post, which just made Danny Boy the only guy in the ring. So all four of them started beating up on Danny Boy. And then, Haku was supposed to be the savior. He was supposed to come in and save Danny Boy and knock the piss out of those other four guys. But as you see from that clip there, I know him and Attila go back way longer than me and Bobby with Haku. So I don't know what happened, if there was some money that transpired, changed hands, or if he's just wanted to do Attila a favor or something. But so you've seen both of them just start wailing on Danny Boy. And Haku hasn't lost a step. So yeah, he was definitely able to do his kicks, his Tongan death grip that he does, underneath the chin. So very disappointed in the actions of Haku. The other four episodes, we kind of expected that shit to happen. But from Haku, that was a different story. And, even at some part, I'm sure you've shown it already, but They even sent out two guys from the locker room to try to help even it out, but they didn't even get inside the ring because before they did, Kowalski and the LA Hustlers are already knocking them down. So it really didn't have any effect. So, yeah, Haku is out of retirement. He is currently working for SICW. Not really for SICW. He's more or less working for the Travis Cook slash Stephen E. and Lucky P. Larson's group. So, so it's going to make next week weird. Because normally, Herb puts us down and makes it kind of like no shit can happen at the CACs. Because sometimes, you have me and Bobby and Gary Jackson roaming around, and then all of a sudden you'll see Attila. Like I said, we, last year had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with Haku. So it's going to be very weird next week. And we're going to try to come to you live, or if we have to videotape it and then put it into our podcast. But we're going to try to do something at the CACs. But it's going to be a little weird for us, because Haku is surely going to be there. I believe Attila Khan is going to be there. Now, the only thing would be Herb is still in charge of this company. And last year, he made us put all differences aside out of respect for all the legends that were going into the Hall of Fame. And I'm sure Herb is going to demand the same. But it's going to be weird having all of us in the same building. I mean, Bobby, you can speak on it how you feel about the subject, but to me, it's going to be extremely weird.
Yeah, you'll be able to cut the tension with a knife for sure. Like last year, Attila sat across the room at a whole nother table. I'm sure it'll be a lot of that same, but you're going to be staring daggers across the room the entire time, and everybody stays in the same hotel. You're going to pass each other here and there, and it'll be intense and it'll be full of tension for sure.
Make sure you get it on video.
Well, that's the thing. Like, during the wrestling stuff, Herb you're fired if you touch. If you're in the casino and stuff, you're getting arrested if you touch. Like, you're in some crap no matter what if you get into some fights there.
Right.
But that's where I'm going to say, like, you're just going to have the tension building and building and building.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I don't know if you caught SICW TV this past Sunday, but Attila and Haku came out together, and they were talking their shit on TV. So it's I think I had an interview, and it might be next week's episode of TV, or maybe it was on this week's episode, but I'm strongly recommending all of us, me, Bobby, Gary, Danny Boy, and even Ron Powers, if we can get him to come out of retirement. Everyone keeps talking about bringing the band back. And I strongly agree with that we all need to get together because it's the only way. We've done this one-on-one. We've done this, as a tag team trying to go against two of those. But as of right now, they definitely have more manpower than we do. And
So
that's because...
we definitely need strength in numbers.
Right.
Like, we got to come together.
Yeah, and
and
me,
maybe get more
Gary, and Bobby are trying to fight this fight. Danny Boy's trying to help us fight this fight. But I think, if we can get Ron behind it, and get him out of retirement, and maybe one or two other guys, man, we should have this down. We should definitely be the victors. But it all depends if we can get everyone on the same page, I guess you would say.
Well, I can pledge my help in the gym and rooting you on.
He'll help from behind the camera.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
I'll yell. I'll just yell from the director's chair, saying, "Okay, move over here." No.
You know,
You're
and
doing
the
it
funny
wrong.
thing
You're doing
is,
it wrong.
He'll have video evidence for us.
Of
right,
course.
right. Well, he had the video evidence of me being handcuffed. I didn't see him come out from behind the camera and help me get unhandcuffed. I mean, I even had fans trying to come up and try to there's nothing they could have done without the key, but
Are you kidding? Those fans are violent.
at least they tried. Nathan didn't even try.
To my,
I
I
eventually
had
made
a
my way
massive
over there.
migraine that night, so the fact that I was able to stay there, that's my
I
excuse.
eventually made my way over there, and I never saw Nathan over there either.
Right.
No, I was doing the Jimmy Hart,
I didn't hear a megaphone.
Right. I didn't see him running around either. I think he
I
was
was in the
hiding behind
director's
the
chair
camera.
saying, "Go help him."
So next week is the CAC. This is mine and Bobby's third time, I think, going down there, and
Cool.
fourth.
Did we already do 3? Or is this number 3?
I was thinking this was number 3.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
Either way,
You even had
there's
a
not
day
to
off
be
today,
our last
Bobby.
time.
Look, when you're at the CAC and you're up till 3 to 4 in the morning every night, like it all starts to blend together as one big thing.
But yeah, so we're definitely going next week. We've got the plane rides already booked and the hotel stay already booked and everything. So, and we're going to try to bring you some of the stuff. Like I said before, whether we videotape it or try to go live sometimes. I really haven't worked out the whole live YouTube or the live Facebook stuff yet, but we'll see how it goes. But if not, we can at least try to get an hour out of there and come back for this podcast. But I do want to go over a couple things. Last week, or maybe it was the week before. Yeah, it was the week before when we were talking about the awards and who was up for these awards, and how Sting is going to be there and Kurt Angle is going to be there. It's very cool that these legends come in for this. And there's, we talked about how RVD and some other legends just stop by because it's important to them as well. And, then we kind of talked about the seminars that goes on and how one year was Memphis and the other year was Texas. So this is our third year because those are the only 2 so far. But so this year, I was able to get on the website, and they kind of updated it a little bit. And I thought it was very cool because they're going to do 4. They're going to do the Bobby Bass story. Now, Bobby Bass is a very interesting individual. He was Canadian-born, but worked out of Texas. Actually worked out of everywhere. He was up in Canada. He was up in, was it not Wisconsin, but Seattle, Washington area. So they're going to tell the life of him. He actually went by No Class Bobby Bass. So it's going to be interesting to see his little spin of. I mean, one year they kind of did a Canadian one as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Canadian mixed in with this Texas wrestling, and then going over. And a funny thing that I found out, Percy Pringle. We all know who Percy Pringle is, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was Paul Bearer in WWF/WWE. However, this guy right here, Ron Bass. Oh, I'm sorry, Bobby Bass, not Ron Bass. Bobby Bass was the original Percy Pringle. In the 70s. He actually used that moniker before Paul Bearer did. So I'm interested to see, that's my thing, is the history of different wrestling, different organizations, different territories. So I'm be down for this one. Then they're going to do a seminar on character building, which I think is very cool because wrestlers, you just can't go out there and wrestle in front of people and have people automatically get behind you. Sometimes they need to know something about you as well. What uh, what you stand for, what you believe in, and there's going to be a seminar on how to express that to the fans,
Yes.
and get them behind you. And some people, like I said, I have like 7 students, 8 students right now at the Ace Academy, and some of them, they're not talkers. Yes, they go in and they train and they work out, um, but they don't like to talk about themselves. Well, there's no way for them to get the fans behind them without them, you know, uh, getting used to a microphone and telling the fans about them. And so this is, I think, is going to be a very cool thing for the young and up and coming wrestlers that haven't broke out of their mode yet, as I like to say at the academy. You need to break out. You need to, have the fans know more about you. Not necessarily where you live, so they stalk you, but I'm a Texan, so from being in Texas, talking about the climate out there, talking about the cattle ranching and stuff like that. Get them more invested into you. So I think
Yeah,
that's going to
and
be cool.
how small Gun Barrel City, Texas really is.
It is very small. Matter of fact, most Texans don't even know about Gun Barrel, Texas.
Yep.
There's going to be a seminar on the history of women's professional wrestling, and it's going to be led by Allison Danger. Now, she's, of course, a female wrestler, and I believe she's actually up for one of the awards this year. So it's going to be cool, again, to hear the stories about how she got into the business. Gary Jackson is going to be awarded the Independent Wrestler of the Year, and God knows, as soon as he gets the microphone, we're going to know everything about Gary as well.
We'll know
So
the rules.
right, we'll definitely know the rules. Matter of fact, Gary was on another podcast last night, and it's a friend of this podcast, Rick Ruby's podcast, and I was watching it, and I know the two people, the hosts, Rick Ruby and Z-Miz, and so I just happened to send Z-Miz a criminating picture of Gary Jackson, uh, where he was painted gold and he had the leaf in a certain spot. And I sent it live because it was going on live, and you can see Z-Miz's face when he opened it up, like, why the hell is Texas sending me a picture of a nearly naked, black guy, And then I sent him another text. I said, "This is Gary," and then you just see him just break down laughing, and then he
That's what
sent
tag
it to
team partners are for.
yeah, and he sent it to Ruby. Of course, Ruby was able to get it up on the screen, and so anytime I can share some embarrassing photos of Gary, I have to, because he has done everything there is in wrestling. He's been to both big shows, WWF, WCW, worked the NWA circuit. So I mean, he's done everything, but so I like to throw a little jab at him every now and then. And
But
it's funny too,
are
because
you ready for him to do the same thing to you when we start going live? Because I'm sure he has a ton of embarrassing pictures of you too.
well, I'm sure he does, but we'll
I don't
see.
think vampires computer too much.
Oh, I was joking around about that too, talking about how Gary is so old that he trained Lou Thez how to wrestle, and that Gary's first wrestling match was against Vladimir the Impaler, and he lost, but he actually won because now he lives on forever. Just different
Gary's
things.
first competition match was the first Olympiad in Athens.
Right. And towards the end of the podcast, I text everyone. I said, this is a great interview, but I really need to know two things. One, who picked the size of the leaf, and who painted him. And all three of them just broke down laughing. And Herb had got on at one point and started laughing at it too. So it was pretty funny. But yeah, so those are three of the seminars. I said there's four. So the fourth one I think is the best one, and that's why I left it for last. Harley Race's son, Justin Race, and Harley Race's ex-wife is going to be holding one strictly on Harley Race. So they're going to go over their respective times with their father or their husband. Of course, being the ex, there was other women in Harley's life that she might not know that time period of Harley. But of course, Justin was Harley's son, so he's going to be able to cover all of it. But it's going to be a great listen because I got introduced to him at our Fan Fest Part 2, and we briefly talked a little bit, and it was a great conversation. And then they went to their table to try to, they weren't even there really selling anything. They were just there to meet the fans. They just came off of that episode of, I always forget the name of this.
Was that Behind the Ring or Dark Side
Side of the Ring? That's what I was going to say. Like, her stories and stuff were pretty interesting that were edited down. So where she can just go in there and talk. Like, that could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and that's what I figured because, they should probably write a book and capitalize because everyone else seems to be capitalizing off of Harley, kind of like they do with King Kong Brody. How his widow talks about how everyone's got a T-shirt being made with his likeness and unauthorized biographies and all this stuff. And she finally came out with a T-shirt with the help of Nick, and came out with a book with the help of Larry and Herb. Because they're survivors of that family, so they deserve everything.
Well, I can say that the only Brody shirt I have is the one that's licensed through her.
Yeah,
it's a good shirt.
Of course, the Power Town figures. Which mine is still sealed in the box. This thing is just awesome.
One.
Well, yeah. I mean,
we'll see until your new dog gets it.
I'm waiting for the granddaughter to open it up because he won't say nothing to her.
Oh, I will.
He might growl a little bit, but he'll be like, okay.
But that figure is awesome. I actually kind of searched for it on eBay out of the box just so I could have one out of the box and one in the box. Just because it is so freaking cool. But yeah, so I'm interested. Oh, speaking of that, Harley Race is coming out with a figure. Well, he's not coming out with it, but Matt Cardona and his company, Major Bendy's, is coming out with their own Harley Race big rubber figure, kind of like a throwback to the LJNs. Now, for a while there, it was actually on hold because they announced it, and then a couple months back, they came back on and said, "Hey, it's being held up." And I actually found out why. They never said it, but in Waterloo, Iowa, when we were talking to Greg Gagne, who is one of the founders of this figure line, he talks about how each one of these guys, if they won a title, each one comes with that title that they won. So Brody's title is up here in the corner.
Oh, no, we can't see it. Can you take it out and show us?
No. Anyway, he talks about how some of the companies that still own the licensing to those belts, they want money too. So they got to make sure that they have the license to use the replica of the belt, and that was the holdup for Harley Races because they wanted him to come with NWA championship, and there was a little discussion between him and Billy Corgan, and finally they came up with something in the middle, I guess. So Harley Race will be coming out with the NWA title for the Big Rubber Guys, is what they're called. That line is called the Big Rubber Guys. So it'll be interesting to see what that guy looks. I mean, I've seen pictures, but you really don't know until you actually physically have it in your hand. But I will probably be getting one of those as soon as they come out as well. But yeah, hands down, I can't wait to hear more Harley Race stories. Last year, we listened to CM Punk when he got an award, and I had no idea CM Punk was a Harley guy. And when he started talking about his stories of being on the road with Harley Race and having to walk Harley Race into his hotel room to put him to bed because he was so plowed out of his mind, and how Harley Race puked in his brand new vehicle that he had just bought, and Harley Race told him never to tell anyone that. But yet, of course, Harley Race, God rest his soul, is passed. But so CM Punk started talking about it. But
That still happens because the last Fan Fest, all three of us were taking drunk people to their rooms.
Well, yeah. It happens when you have a bunch of legends come in and they haven't seen each other in forever and they haven't talked to us in forever, and it's what makes fun times, And I have to say, throwing this bad thing, Kevin Sullivan just passed away, and we had Kevin Sullivan in a few times, and I was reminiscing with Herb Simmons about Kevin the other day. And the last time we had him in, he had, he was in Anderson, but I can't remember the guy's first name. Do you happen to remember Bobby? It was an Anderson.
Andrew Anderson?
Who?
Andrew Anderson? Andy Anderson?
He had him in, and so he was the manager of him that night. But we went to a local establishment afterwards, and me and Herb and Kevin Sullivan and Anderson were all sitting together, and we were eating dinner and talking, having a couple beers, and Kevin was just drawn to me. There's two other people there, but me and him are having the conversations, and he's talking about how he did talk about Herb and how Herb is one of the last of the Mohicans with the old school ways, and he loves the promotion, and he loves big guys like me in the ring. And he said that I surprised him because I'm such a big guy, but I can still move and get around in the ring really well. And he was just a thrill to talk to. And, I'm definitely going to miss that. Like I said, this is like the third or the fourth time Kevin Sullivan's been in with Herb, and it's sad that we keep having to get on our podcast and talking about the legends that are passing away. Because there's two other legends that weren't very popular and I should have jotted down their names. That on the CAC website, they have a list of all the legends that passed away this year. And it's just a shame because two of them was right after Sullivan, and I think Sullivan passed us either this past Sunday or this past Saturday.
Yeah, on the 9th. I didn't know he passed away till you said something.
Yeah, and it's just very sad that our legends are falling away like this.
Well, and that's where we talk about too, where it's important to go to these things like CAC because Kevin was there last year. You could have met him there if you weren't by near SNCW. Like you get to meet all these people, and sadly to say, you will not get to meet him this year.
Yeah, yeah. And me and her was talking about the same issue about, we met Jerry Jarrett. Got to see him and talk. Didn't really carry a conversation on with the guy, but they were doing a Memphis seminar, and I keep using the word seminar because they use the word seminar, but it's basically them just telling the stories. And the Memphis was the Memphis territory, so it's Jerry Jarrett and Jerry the King Lawler's, organization down in Memphis, their territory. And they just told the stories about how it began and how they tried to carry on because they were one of the longest running territories after Vince McMahon. You were buying up everyone, and that's because they kind of had a working relationship with Memphis. Um, a lot of the future stars went down to Memphis to train. The Rock being the biggest one of the biggest ones. The Rock went down there to learn from Jerry the King Lawler before they brought him up to the WWF. But so yeah, Jerry Jarrett passes away last year, and then Kevin Sullivan passes away this year. It's just I'm glad an organization like this exists because we always talk about it. But this organization, they give back to the wrestlers. Um, like we said, that didn't have health insurance or can't pay their house note for some strange reason. Maybe they have health insurance, but they still didn't have enough money to cover all the bills. So they helped them out with the bills, or they helped them. Like I said, I know they cover other things too, like house notes or anything that the wrestlers need that they can't seem to afford because back then they didn't have health insurance and they didn't have a 401k and didn't have this retirement plan. This organization gives back to them.
You say back then, but I was under the understanding they're still independent contractors and still do not to this day.
Well, see, there's a catch-22. So some of the wrestlers that switches to a backstage role now have health insurance. So like a Shane Helms, the Hurricane. When he was a wrestler, he didn't have anything. But now that he's a backstage producer, now he has health insurance. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, now you're not a contractor anymore. You're part of the corporation. But while you're a contractor, you got nothing.
Right. Now, sometimes I also heard that if you were a big star, like The Undertaker or, like a Brock Lesnar, and you got seriously hurt, they would help pay, because you're their big money man. They want you to be back in the ring, but you're talking about, again, a handful of people, that they would do that for. So if you were just a mid roster or you're, the lower card, good luck. See you when you're healthy and you come back. If you
And
come
there's the
back.
CAC website there, Jim, with the two that passed away before, when Ron Hutchinson. It says Leo Burke and Louis Tillett.
Yeah. So, and it's just a couple people before my time, so I couldn't remember their names, but.
I don't know. I think Gary Jackson might know.
Well, I mean, Gary probably trained them, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
And
again,
here's the CAC website. Everybody go to it. There's the dates.
Well, if you didn't buy your tickets already, you're out of luck because after a certain date, they stopped selling them. And I think that date was either the beginning of this month or the end of last month. So if you didn't buy your tickets, you're not going to get in. Hey.
Yeah, there's Jim ruining your all hope.
Stay away.
You just start bringing the dog on the screen, and then she'll calm down.
Well, she just went after the cat. I think someone just went and got the cat. Okay.
So there's the benevolent fund. This is where you would go if you are a wrestler or in the wrestling business as an independent and request their help. You have to download the form and then, they get back to you.
Yeah, on that website, there's ways to donate. You can become a member or a lifetime member like Bobby is. They even have a CAC radio where they do interviews with the nominees of their prospective award. So they had one on Sting, and they um, did one on Kurt Angle, but it's kind of cool. There's also some merchandise too, so you don't have to just donate. You can buy a T-shirt, and the money that you use to buy that T-shirt will go into that fund. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do on that website. Yes, those are the T-shirts, and I seen them last year, and they're
I like
pretty cool.
those old school coat of arms one or the old school 76 oil branded
Yeah, so
ones.
they're very cool. Um, and then they do other things, like if you did buy your ticket while you're there, they have raffles that you can put some money in, and like that's how Bobby won his lifetime membership. He won a raffle. I won a raffle where I got a turnbuckle that's autographed by the whole Memphis crew.
They do silent auctions. That's where I got mine.
Oh yeah,
They got raffles, silent auctions, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, just everything there, and all the proceeds go back to the organization, which in return goes to a needy wrestler. Um, and and it doesn't even have to be a wrestler, because they'll tell you, referees, wrestlers, managers, even someone who set up the ring all the time. If you were in the wrestling world, um, at some point in time, they will help you out. So it's a very cool organization. Um, and to get people to come in like a Sting or Kurt Angle to, one, the organization is respected, and two, they use those legends like that, like a Sting, to help build attendance for this, to build more money into the fund. So it's just a cool organization. And like I said, Gary Jackson, one of our own SICW guys, is winning one today. Oh, well, next week. And I'm hoping.
I do have a quick question since you guys are both in the CAC. Is Jim Ross really getting the Jim Ross Announcers Award?
I believe so. That was the one we read, right? Yeah.
That is a brand new one. And, Waterloo, Iowa had the Gordon Soley Award. And Jim Ross was one of the winners of that. But the CAC never had announcers, an award for them. And the most famous announcer that's alive right now, hands down, is Jim Ross. So this is going to be the start of that award, and you might also give it to the best person right now, which is Jim Ross. So they named it after him. He's going to get it, but he's not going to get it next year. They're going to eventually, do it for all the announcers. Just like this year at Waterloo, Iowa, Tony Schiavone won the Gordon Soley Award. So it's they added three of them that they added. Gary, his award, does independent wrestler. This is the first year for that award, and he's the very first one that's getting it. So that's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, I know the Jim Ross one is another one, but I want to say, I think it's the TV one that what's his name? The guy from what you talking about, Willis?
Yeah. What was his name?
I can't think of his name.
I never actually watched that TV show. I just know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about him 2 weeks ago.
Todd Bridges.
Yeah, I think that one's a new one too. Or one of the other ones is brand new. I think they brought in 3. So it's going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be a great time, regardless of Haku and Attila is going to be there. Hands down, the stuff that we take back from this, uh, is awesome. It's getting to meet the legends, your idols, getting training or even the knowledge from their territories, getting to see your legends or your heroes win these awards, get to have dinners with them, and unfortunately, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with some of them. And I say unfortunately just because Haku.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's real rough. It's going to be rough for you because isn't Haku supposed to be there on Monday?
Yes.
That's going to be interesting. You guys are not going to be able to sit down and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just maybe not with him.
Well,
Right.
not at the same table with Haku now.
I'm also gonna
Okay,
get
now,
my
Bobby, if Jim and Haku go forehead to forehead, stand back, get the camera out, and
Jim's pretty tough, but he might need a little bit of assistance because remember Attila's nearby too.
Right. Hey, so that is next week. But this weekend we have 2 shows we need to talk about. Now, I don't know much about the shows when I say matches, but we have 2 cool shows that we're doing again. We talked about the Bommarito 500. That is this Saturday. Um, the second time of us coming to this racetrack. The first time went great. Uh, the owners of the racetrack, before we even left, said we have to continue to do this, and signed us up for 2 more dates. We got one this Saturday and we got one in September, um, and it's a great time for us, because there's so much to do at the racetrack. They got so many things that you can go sample in food besides the races itself. They have concerts and they have, um, car shows on the other side. So it's very cool to do. Um, and we have that one, and then we have a show in Missouri. We call it the Soho Apartment Show, which is these. I want to say they're apartments. They're basically houses stacked on top of each other because every room is like a damn house. Uh, this
Some of them
building
were
is just,
even up to 3-bedroom apartments, weren't they?
yeah. I mean, this is hands down the best place to rent or to own. I don't know how they do it, but this place has their own basketball court, their own swimming pool, their own
Bowling
gym,
alley.
their own.
It was a great time last time. I imagine this time will be as well.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's a double shot on a Saturday. So we have both of those events this Saturday. One in the morning, one in the afternoon. So thank God we got some time between the 2. But it's going to be a very cool weekend. And then we leave out on Sunday. So
I'm gonna say, you just got to give a shout out to our ring crew too, and Andy who owns the ring. We have a lot of work with the wrestling, but the amount of work he has to do, where he's got to go set that up at the apartments in the morning, him and his crew break it down, take it to the racetrack, set it up again, and then break it down again that night. That man is putting some work in.
right.
Why are we putting it up in the morning out in Soho when we're not going to be there until after the Indy race?
Well, he probably just said that
Reverse
to
the
say
two.
it, but yeah. Just
You're,
figure that we got to
you're
set up
setting
for
it
the
up twice and you're
racetrack,
breaking
tear
it
down
down
the
twice, whatever you
racetrack,
order.
set it up for the other one.
And both of you talked at the same time, and I understood absolutely nothing.
I said he's setting it up twice and he's breaking it down twice, whatever the order.
More power to him. And so this part I'm going to cut out because it's just going to be us talking because of the dogs. But I was thinking when we do the whole thing with your friend about for the Halloween shit, we should name it either Wrestling with Ghosts or Wrestling with the Paranormal. I think that would be funny and funnier than that. Well,
I
of
say
course,
we're just gonna have to try to pick a date with it. Like I keep mentioning it to him, and he's like, "Yeah, we should do it," and then he kind of walks away. So maybe if we pick like hey, we're gonna go do this on November 19th. Maybe
we
that
didn't
will
do
get
it for
started with it.
Halloween though.
Well, I'll just throw a
Uh,
random day out there.
Yeah.
I didn't really pick that day, but
But
maybe
if
we'll
it
get
goes
into.
well, I think we could
I can
do
tell
it.
you right now, I'm not going out on Halloween night with my kids being young. I take them out.
Well, no, not on Halloween night, but for a Halloween show.
Yeah.
But if it does well, it should be just a whole new thing, Wrestling with Ghosts. This is my first thing. Okay, and we'll be back.
Well, I'm
Welcome
back.
back,
Are
Tim.
you
What
guys?
happened? No.
Take two.
You actually cut the feed?
What's that?
He's gonna
You
edit
actually
it.
cut the feed? Don't open
Yeah,
it.
No, he's
yeah,
gonna-
that part's going to be edited out.
All right, good. So what were we talking about?
Oh, we were talking about the double shot on this Saturday, and then flying out Sunday.
Yeah. It's going to be definitely a crazy weekend, but a lot of fun, hands down. I wanted to throw in a little history lesson today. I don't know. Have you guys known, or have you? Yeah, everyone knows about the Montreal screw job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nathan, I don't know if you know it, but it's kind of when Vince McMahon screwed Bret Hart, got Shawn
Yeah.
Michaels involved, and
Yeah.
so Bret Hart lost his championship. But did you know there was another Montreal screw job way before then?
No,
Bobby,
I
you
didn't.
did?
I've heard about it. I don't recall what it was, but I have heard about it before.
Okay,
So
let's go Triple X and tell us about the Montreal screw job.
So the only reason I was rereading on this is those stack of books that I showed you a couple of weeks ago, and one of them talks about Frank Gotch, and the other one talks about Edward Strangler Lewis and Luthez. Kind of all bring it all together. But Edward Strangler Lewis was actually in the first Montreal screw job. And I read this before, but you know how you read things and you can remember them for a little while, but then they kind of fade. So, different book brought up the same subject, so it's kind of cool. So, Edward Stringer Lewis was actually AWA champion, and I'm not talking about the AWA from Ganya. Back in the day, the AWA meant a different. And I can't even remember what the AWA stood for back in that time. But Edward Stringer Lewis was the champion. And back in the day, they used to do 2 out of 3 falls. Even when like Harley Race was the champion, they would still do that. Where to beat the champion, you had to beat him twice in the same match. So they would, wrestle, and they would whoever got the pin. Well, once someone got the pin, they would literally go back to the dressing rooms, cool down for a little while, and then they would come back out. Now, when Harley was the champion, it wasn't quite like that. It was stand in your corner, 30 seconds, breathe, come back in. But back in Edward Stringer Lewis's days, they would literally, if a pin happened, you would go back to your dressing room. So there was a guy, I'm going to butcher this name, but it's Henry DeGlane, and he was going against Edward Stringer Lewis. And he was able to get a victory over Mr. Lewis for the first fall. Now, it was very rare that you got a pinfall victory over Lewis because back in the day, he was a hooker. And like I said, a hooker is someone who can legitimately hurt you and cause and force you to tap out, or he can bend your body into a situation where he can get the 3 count.
So
he was
not the same hookers you'll see in Vegas.
no, not the
Oh
same
no,
one.
those they can hurt your body too, though.
Yes.
But when
Bobby
we
is
when we talked about this before, Jim, not on this particular thing, because I didn't know about that screw job or Jimmy's Bobby's Vegas screw job. But how many bones were actually broken from old school hookers? Happened on a regular basis.
it happened on a regular basis because they were talking about how, like when I read Lou Thesz's book, he talked about how a lot of people had so big of egos that, like in St. Louis, there was one place that all the wrestlers went to practice, and they would practice on up and coming guys, kind of like how it is today. So you would practice on an up and coming guy, and sometimes if like you were the territory guy where you're the champion, you went from St. Louis to Florida or whatever, you would practice, of course, in that city until your big bout. And so let's say Lou Thez came to St. Louis, and there was like already a head honcho type of bully in that locker room already working out there, and now you got Lou Thez there. So there's been multiple times, even in his book, where he said that that guy in that territory would try to hurt him in the practice before they even went out to the show and actually, had the match in front of the crowd and everything. Because back in the day, it was like, it's not like they were practicing their match that they were going to have. They would physically practice moves on each other and actually have bouts inside these gyms. And sometimes they would open up to the public where the public can come in and watch these, but they weren't advertised and they weren't big, let's settle this at the Savage Center or, the Checker Dome, those places back then. So all the time, these people who were known to be hookers or stretchers or just, tough men or strong men, they would constantly try to, hurt each other. Um, and again, it's just like today, you don't want to, they say, like, you don't want to help the new up and comers because if you help them, they're going to take your spot. So they would try to hurt the guys that were more famous and everything so they can take their spot. So it happens all the time. Countless broken bones. They talk about eyes being popped out. We talk about Haku and how he was known to do that. So were these guys. If you weren't going to quit or tap out, they would make you tap out. So they would break your fingers or break your toes or, pop a muscle. Sometimes pop an eyeball out because more than likely you're going to fucking tap so you can put your eyeball back in, So that was an actual common thing back then. That's also where a lot of them got the cauliflower ears, because they would attack the ears, as well. But back to this screw job. So Henry somehow got the first pin. And so they broke off. They went back to the dressing rooms. Now, back then, things were a lot stricter. Kind of like how we have the over-the-top rule here in St. Louis. You get thrown over the top. Well, if you throw your opponent over the top, you're disqualified. So back then, if there was no punching, there was no biting, those things would be disqualifications.
I think you're
So,
still not supposed to bite.
right. So this Henry guy had a manager, and he had the manager bite him underneath his arm and draw blood. And so when they went back out for the second pin, they got into a hold and they were in the hole for a while, and then all of a sudden he breaks free and starts jumping up and down, screaming and shit, and said that Edward Strangler Lewis bit him. That was outside of the ring, so that don't count.
See, he thought like they got rid of that rule. That's the problem.
Right. So this guy, shows the ref this bite mark and said it was from Lewis. And so the referee disqualified Lewis, which gave him the second pinfall, which gave him the belt. So that was the very first Montreal Screwjob. Edward Strangler Lewis lost the belt that way. Very, very bad situation. I'm sure Mr. Lewis got his revenge on that gentleman later on, because that's how that shit happens. You fuck him over, he's going to come and find you. Kind of like how Buddy Rogers and Lou Thez happened. I don't know if you guys ever heard that story.
I don't know that
Buddy
one.
Rogers. Huh?
I don't know that one.
Oh. So
Yeah,
Buddy
let's
Rogers.
tell that one. We can tell that one for our wind down because we're way over the hour limit. If you guys want to keep.
Oh, okay. So one more
Let's
thing
film
to
the
add
extra
about
content for
Mr.
while we're on.
One more thing about Strangler Lewis. He was one of the wrestlers known to have the longest wrestling match. They went 5.5 hours to a time limit draw. It was, of course, Edward Strangler Lewis, and there was Joe. It's Stecher, Stetcher. But they went 5.5 hours to a draw.
And they were still able to breathe at the end of it?
But back then that's what they used to do. They would hour-long matches, 2-hour-long matches, because too you got to remember.
Even though those crazy numbers you just threw out, you more than doubled that second one.
Right. But see, back in the day, they didn't have like undercard matches. You were there to see Edward Strangler Lewis wrestle this other guy, and that was the only match that night. So literally, you would come in, and they would go head to head to whoever could last the longest. Or in this time, they cut it off after 5.5 hours and just called it a draw. And that to me, that's just crazy wrestling, and I would have loved to have seen it. Maybe not the 5.5 hours long worth, because even as a fan of wrestling, when AEW came into town and they had, Dynamite, and then they did 2 hours of Ring of Honor, and then they came back with AEW for another 2 hours. That was a long set of wrestling, and we even left before it was over, because you can't sit there for that long. It's just crazy. You can probably sit there for a WrestleMania, because every match at a WrestleMania is like top tier matches, 5-star matches. But when you're talking about the undercards for Ring of Honor and the undercards for AEW, and then the hour-long, good cards, it's just crazy. I can't imagine sitting there and watching two guys wrestle for 5.5 hours.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm thinking back to watching Ken Shamrock and Oleg Tektaro. They were like a 45-minute MMA match, and that seemed like it took forever.
Yeah. But even at that, something like that match would be more entertaining because it's no holds bar.
Well, and Oleg was the inventor of the rubber guard, so it was a lot of just pull him and hold him.
Yeah, so, man, these next couple months is just going to be crazy. We're booked pretty much every weekend. Once we get past the vacation, well, I call it vacation, but, Vegas. Once we get past Vegas, it's pretty much every weekend that we're booked. Going to the Little Devils, going to Sandoval, going to Breeze.
Oh, yeah, that's a good arm drag right there.
Yeah. Plus the normal monthly show. It's going to be great. I don't know, Bobby, did you see any of those still pictures that Amy posted? Us wrestling Oh, you gotta get on her Facebook. Of course, she recorded the matches from this past Saturday. Because me and Attila went at it this Saturday. Uh, got one over on. Well, no, I didn't, but kind of. Our match ended in a count out. Of course, we ended up brawling and we ended up swinging chairs back and forth at each other. And then he even, I got him with a couple good chair shots, and then he got me with one chair shot, but it broke the chair over my back. Broke the welds right off the back of the chair. Um, then we had a battle royal. They called it the Royal Rumble, where everyone who wrestled that night came out, plus a couple additional wrestlers came out, and everyone just went back to back on that. It was a great Rumble. One of my trainees, first time ever in a match, came out during the Rumble. Of course, he got mistreated, but he also held his own for a little while too.
I believe I saw you mistreat him a little bit.
Well, if you've seen that part, then you would see that I took probably a good 15 chops from him, and they were just disappointing me. So I went ahead and got some revenge and showed him what a real chop is.
Oh, so you were training in the moment.
Right.
You're
I
taking
was
the
training in
opportunity.
the
Okay.
moment.
Well, I'm going to say 15 chops. They had to be light for you to sit there and take 15.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He had some good ones, but they were far in between the bad ones that he was giving me. So I think total, I probably landed 5 on him. One single and then 4 right back together. Um,
You didn't
but
tap out?
it was a rumble, so I didn't want to throw him out. I told him before we were heading out, I said, stay in there as long as you can. I'll even try to protect you and see how long you can be in there, So I did look after him, just not when I was picking on him.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'm the one that threw him out.
Oh, what the hell, Bobby?
Well, he's so small. It just looked like the right time to body slam him over the ropes.
But that rumble, it actually came down to, there's 5 of us. It was me, Attila, Bobby, Jason Breed, and Joey Vanetti. Attila, Bobby kind of eliminated himself. Uh, he tried to run up at Attila, and Attila just kind of one-armed him over the rope.
And then he ran my head into a pole. I didn't just fall.
And, well,
That's
I was
disappointing as hell, Bobby. He could have just stuck his hand out so he can just swing bullies do on the playground. Throwing yourself out the ring.
But it was, it was pretty good. Breed eliminated Joey, and then Attila eliminated Breed, and then I eliminated Attila. So I ended up winning that one, so it was pretty cool. And
Awesome.
then, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I was going to say, after that, when are you defending your Classics belt?
So the next time I'm scheduled to defend it is September the 7th. And that's going to be me one-on-one with Kowalski. Now, my belt was actually on the line against Attila Saturday, last Saturday. But it was a count out just because we were outside throwing around chairs. But see here, Bobby, you had a match too. Who'd you go against?
Your friend of the show that you were talking about earlier, Dave Ruby.
Oh.
The whole time you're thinking, I'm like, he wasn't my friend last weekend.
So break it down. How'd you do?
I mean, he's a big boy. I don't remember the weight, but it's a lot. So trying to move him around is no easy task. Like, I compare his size to Kowalski that you saw a second ago in that video. Like, he stands in front of me, I disappear. And I'm no small guy myself. Like I'm 280 pounds, like, and then I disappear behind him. But no, just trying to move him around and trying to play a little bit of rope a dope. And he got a lot of chokes and a lot of different things on me. But every time I would try something like a sunset flip, he is a big guy to try to move, and it failed. But then he tries to speed, and it didn't work. So I get a little bit back, and then he just again a big boy to get a hold of, and eventually I got him with the crossbody and cradled him up for a pin real quick.
Whew.
Oh,
I mean, to be cross-bodied onto Ruby and to roll him up, and that's a feat in its own.
Well,
So
normally I have the leg and the head, and I can lock my hands, but I was probably still about this far back, like just trying to squeeze it together.
right.
I did not get the full lock on Ruby.
Now
the big
the main
question
event.
is, going way back, Jim, the big question is, what did you do with the handcuffs? Did you take them home? What did you do?
Oh no! As soon as I got out of the handcuffs, they dropped on the floor, and that was the last time I seen them. So I don't know. I
Were
don't
you
know where
trying to
they
ask
ended
if his wife got a hold of him?
up. But the main event that night was Gary Jackson versus Peyton Ayers in the steel cage match. Now, Gary Jackson was the victor of that match, but as soon as they opened the door and took the lock off, Attila ran out there, got in the cage, and then they start beating up on Gary. And then, of course, Danny Boy was the special referee on
Right
that
there, I
match too.
disappeared.
So they start beating up on Danny Boy again. So as soon as I seen that, I ran out there and started beating up on both of them. And then we had the odds. And this is, again, what we need to talk about is we need to get the odds back in our favor since Haku jumped ship. And I think we can get it done. We just got to get the band back together, as they say.
I say, and even on nights like this past weekend where Haku wasn't there, like you can't take stuff away from people like Attila. Like, he's a devastating force of his own, and then you just add someone like Haku to it, and that's what just makes it crazy.
Right. But, all right. So we've definitely gone over our time, and we like to keep this down to an hour. Went over that. So, like to draw to an end. We're going to try to do something special for you next week um, with the CACs. Um, and either way, I'm sure we'll have a review of the week, coming up, if not the week after. But if you like this content, please help us out and like the videos, share the videos, comment on it. Let us know what you like. Let us know what we need to fix. This past week's video with El Diablo seemed to break a little barrier that we've been at for a while. Some of the videos are not getting the views because of this whole thing that we're in, and we're trying to break out of it. And it seems like the El Diablo video is kind of helping us. And we did get to 400 on the subscribers. So, help us out, subscribe, like the channel, comment on it, and then just spread the word for us. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I think that's it. I'm ready to party.
And that one kind of surprised me. I got to be honest with you. I was expecting a lariat, and then you put the foot up.
Well, he ducked the first lariat, so I went ahead and when he turned around, was coming at me. He was actually coming at me faster than I thought he could, so I just threw the boot up. And I tell you, when my boot went into that stomach, it was like one of those movie things, because you see the foot, and then all of a sudden you don't see the foot. It was pretty good, pretty funny too.
That could hurt your knee more than hitting something hard.
Speaking of that, I have bruises all over my right knee, so I don't know. That might have been what it was from. I never know. But all right, from everyone
All
at the
right.
Square Ring Podcast, I would like to thank you guys for tuning in, and like I said, please share. But we'll see you from Vegas.
All right. And remember, guys, what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas.
I thought it was
Sir.
what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, except for herpes. That follows you everywhere.
It does. Herpes is forever.
Oh, you got horrible. All right, see you, gentlemen.
All right.
Adios.
Have a good night, guys.